7 bodies have been uncovered within 2 months in New England, leading many of the locals to believe that a serial killer is walking among them. While the police deny a threat to the public, it's been found that 50 years ago, another serial killer was believed to have roamed the same area, only to stop killing once a victim actually survived his attack. Now, investigators who worked on that case of the alleged serial killer from decades ago never officially linked those victims either, and their killer was never identified. Is this new alleged serial killer a parallel to the old, or is there really no connection here? If so, does that mean 7 bodies equals 7 different killers who haven't been caught? What's scarier? You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I am Brooke Makenna, and I would love if you would subscribe if you do enjoy my videos. And if you want to make sure you never miss an upload, go ahead and sign up for the Genuine Gem newsletter so I can make sure to send you the videos personally, but I upload every Sunday and the occasional Wednesday. But first, a quick mention from our sponsor, Scatter Slots. Now, Scatter Slots is actually a free-to-play casino game with a very unique dark fantasy theme. You can play on journey mode to complete missions, unlock new slots, and move along the map. There's even a battle mode where you can choose to challenge other players, and you can play for free on both iOS and Android, and you can play offline and online, which is perfect for traveling. Scatter Slots is a way to play slots while going on a magical journey through different worlds. It's kind of like being at a Renaissance fair and at a casino all in one. I love it. And with my link or QR code, you can now receive a huge bonus of 12 million free coins. Just click that link in my description or scan the QR code to download for free and to get your bonus. Now let's get back to the story. So earlier this month, in April of 2025, whispers began on social media fearing for women in the New England area.
Serial killer in New England are circling on social media, but police say that is not the case.
There have been a lot of remains, sets of remains found in eastern Connecticut and Rhode Island over the past few weeks.
7 bodies had been found in the states of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. You see, on March 6th of 2025, remains were found in the Norwalk River in Norwalk, Connecticut. During a search for a missing person, Norwalk PD actually searched the river. They would find clothing and personal items near the bank, and a woman's body was recovered amongst the fast-moving water. She was identified as the missing person that they were searching for, 35-year-old Paige Fannon. Now, Paige was from New York, but was last seen 2 days prior in Wilton, Connecticut, which was only about 17 minutes from Norwalk, where she was found. Paige was said to be someone who deeply cared about those that she loved. It was said that she would fight for you when you were down. She lit up the room the second that she walked into it with her energy, her smile, her laugh. It was so contagious, it made it impossible not to want to be around her. But the same day Paige was found, a human skull was found in the woods off of Route 3 in Plymouth, Massachusetts. This was about 3 hours and 30 minutes away from where Paige was found. A man was out looking for deer antlers when he discovered a small, discolored, and jawless skull. Now, Plymouth Police Department returned to the area of the woods looking for more evidence, and while the skull has not yet been identified as a male or a female, there are families of 2 missing women who are questioning whether this skull could be their loved ones. You see, Sandra Crispo was a 54-year-old mother and grandmother living in that same area when on August 7th, 2019, she had vanished. While police searched the area, they even dug up her basement, they were unable to locate her. Sandra was said to have moved into that home 3 months prior to be closer to her grandchildren, who she would often babysit when her daughter Elena was working. That day that she vanished, though, her daughter Elena had dropped her sons off with Sandra as normal and headed off to work. Now, later that day, Sandra realized that she was having car trouble, so she told her son-in-law this, who was Tim McConan, and so Tim offered Sandra a ride to drop her vehicle off at the mechanic and then drop her back home, and then he would take the boys with him after that. So on the way home from the mechanic, they stopped for cigarettes, which was found on CCTV at a gas station. And then 2 days later, her daughter Lena could not get a hold of her, and neither could Tim. And they went to her home to find her door unlocked, the lights was on, but her dog did not have any food or water. Her shoes and purse, however, were missing. On the 9th, the day that her daughter and son-in-law went to search her home, Sandra was supposed to watch the grandkids, as she often did, and so her daughter knew that she wouldn't have just left without telling her. And Sandra didn't yet have her car back from the mechanic, so she had no vehicle. She has still not been found 5 years later, and her family believed that this school could belong to her. However, so does the family of Brittany McCormack, who was last seen 2 years after Sandra in 2021. On July 6th of 2021, Brittany was a 27-year-old mother of two visiting her mother's home in Hanover, Massachusetts, which is about 26 minutes from Plymouth, where the skull was found. Now, the search for Brittany ended with no findings. She was said to have gone missing before. She struggled with drug addiction, substance abuse, and had always come home and gotten proper treatment. But she also had pervasive developmental disorder, which her family said led many people to take advantage of her and also involve her in criminal activity. Brittany was said to be a loving mother who had a heart of gold. She would do anything for anyone. She wasn't living with her family at the time, but she would keep in contact with her mother at least once a week to check in on the kids. She was always saying that she should have been born in the 80s because she loved that style of music, and all Brittany wanted in life was to be a mom and raise her kids. She was bubbly, outgoing, and put everyone first. She was said to be a ray of sunshine even on her darkest days, according to her sister. But Brittany's family does not believe that she is still alive at this point. They said they have had many people come forward messaging them saying that they wish they could give information, but that they're scared for their own lives. So her family has also wondered if this skull could belong to Brittany. But that's not where the remains being found or the missing people stopped. But after the skull was found and Paige was located on March 6th, there was a third set of remains found on March 19th in New England. Now, this was in Groton, Connecticut, which was between where Paige was found and where the skull was found on the coast. Police in Groton had gotten a 911 call reporting a suspicious item near a cemetery. It was believed that these were female remains left by an unknown person in mid-February. She was between the ages of 40 and 60 and had light pigmented skin. She could have had Turner's syndrome due to her appearance, which is a genetic condition that affects females where only one copy of the X chromosome is missing or altered. This can cause physical and developmental differences, but with Turner syndrome, it can also display different characteristics, such as a short stature, broad chest, short wide neck, and small chin. And the investigators believe that these remains resembled someone with Turner's syndrome, and she had been found in a suitcase. Shortly after this, Jane Doe was found at the cemetery. Investigators were searching an area, a building, wearing hazmat suits, collecting bags of evidence, and it was about a few blocks away. They were said to not be searching for another body, but they could not confirm if it had anything to do with the Jane Doe 2 blocks away. So just like the other cases, this case was still unsolved as well. And then 2 days later, on March 21st, another body was found in New Haven, Connecticut, about an hour from Norwalk, where Paige was found, between where Paige was located and where the suitcase remains were found in Groton. These were all very close proximity, and residents of New Haven reported finding human remains while clearing brush in the wooded area behind a house. The remains were in an advanced state of decay, and they were quickly identified as 59-year-old Denise Leary. She had last been seen at her home in New Haven on September 29th, 2024. She had moved from Atlanta to Connecticut 2 years prior. When her mother had a stroke, she came to be with her, and she raised 2 children who were now grown. Now, it was found that Denise might have some developmental conditions, suffering suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. The autopsy has not been finalized due to decomposition, and her cause of death has yet to be determined. Now, this was the third found that could be described as being a more vulnerable individual with these developmental disorders. Brittany McCormack with her persuasive developmental disorder, the Jane Doe in the Suitcase with Turner syndrome, and now Denise Leary. Could this be a connection? Well, 5 days later, on March 26th, another body was found, this time in Foster, Rhode Island. This was between Groton, Connecticut, where the Suitcase Jane Doe was found, and Plymouth, Massachusetts, where the skull was found, still in that same New England area. This body was found in the woods and determined to be female. The remains were identified as a missing 56-year-old, whose name I will not be stating due to the family's wishes. It is public record if you would like to search herself. She had vanished 8 months prior in Warwick, which is where she was believed to last been seen on July 22nd, 2024. She was reported missing by a family member that next month. Now, investigators in Foster have claimed that they are examining suspicious circumstances surrounding her death, but the cause of death has yet to be determined. They have searched her last known address, but the investigation is ongoing. Investigators have since asked the public for any recordings near or on 88th Plainfield Pike, the highway, from February or March, such as a dash cam, a drone, a trail camera, to see if they can get any footage of when she was disposed of. One of her friends said that she deserves justice, that she didn't just die and end up in the woods, but her family believes that her death is in no way related to a serial killer, and they would like her story to be taken out of the narrative that is going around of the New England serial killer. So I'm going to respect those wishes and not post her name or her photo. So 2 weeks after that, on April 9th, yet another body was located in Killingly, Connecticut. This was very close to Foster, Rhode Island, where they had just found the last body. These remains have not been identified. But the next day in Framingham, Massachusetts, about an hour from Rhode Island and Killingly, Connecticut, the two prior remain locations, firefighters in Framingham were actually battling a brush fire along the Massachusetts Turnpike when they found the remains. It was believed that these remains had been there for a few months, but the scene did not indicate foul play. Many have taken to TikTok to spread awareness of what they are referring to as a possible serial killer in New England. One user, called Your True Crime Bestie, talked about the theory that these bodies had been found near highways, and this could be a truck driver.
There's a serial killer in New England, and I have a theory that I read about a few months ago that I think is exactly what's happening now. All of the bodies are being found like within 5 minutes from an interstate highway, and I'm almost certain that the serial killer has to be a truck driver, because if you search up truck driver serial killings, there's someone who's been doing investigations on this theory that serial killings are being done by truck drivers because they have the mobility, like they have sort of the alibi as to why bodies are being found in different places. So haven't heard anyone say this yet, but I truly think that people are being offed by truck drivers, probably in gas stations.
Another user, Paige Fannon, spoke about her experience living in the area that made her uncomfortable and concerned.
I work and live in the same area of all of these findings, and there was 2 incidents that make me want to scratch my head a little bit. I was driving home, and a pickup truck with tinted windows, it was darker in color to me, was following me. At least that's what it felt like. He followed me for miles. I literally purposely was going slow behind a box truck because I was looking and I was being aware and I was scared, and it was dark, it was late. This truck kept coming up to the side of me. It kept slowing down. It kept falling back. I always made sure that I had eyes on its headlights. It would go a little bit in front of me and then it would slow back down. I was going very slow behind this box truck. Once the box truck took an exit off, it was just me and this truck, and he knew to stay kind of behind me. And then I started to slow down to see if he would speed up. And it took up until I got to the state police exit that I pretended I was going to take it, that this truck decided it wanted to go fast and it sped off. It was so scary to me. Like, I genuinely thought I was being followed, and it took me an extra hour to get home that night because I was paranoid I was being followed. That was one incident. And then another incident, I got to work. It was late. It was nighttime, and I parked in the way back of the parking lot. Parking lot is adjacent to a road, and it's just a wooded area. It's like a back road, and I noticed a guy walking, and at one point he stopped walking and he was standing by the telephone pole. And you know, I wasn't getting out my car until I saw this guy walk by. Like, I got a very eerie feeling like I was being watched, and I sat there and I could only see his jacket. Like, I couldn't see his face. I could just see the body outline in the shadows, literally. I sat there for a good minute, like a long minute. And then when I decided I needed to go inside, I grabbed my bag and I ran.
Another user, Crystal Marie, said that she lives where the bodies have been found and that she doesn't think it's a serial killer, but lots of different murderers.
I'm gonna need everybody who's freaking out about the potential serial killer in New England to just calm down. Oh my God, there's a serial killer, there's a serial killer. There's not a serial killer, okay? At least I don't think there is a serial killer. I just think that there's multiple murderers running around. Everybody's acting like there being a serial killer is a lot more scary. No, a lot of murderers just wandering around is a lot more scary. Why are you freaked out about one person when there could be dozens of people? If you're wondering why I don't think it's a serial killer, it's because none of these crimes have any sort of connection to them. Like, if all of the victims were found murdered in suitcases of just their torso, yes, that is a serial killer. Serial killers, typically, they don't have to, okay? They typically have like an identifiable feature, characteristic, trait, something. The bodies were found like outside, just random remains. It's been the tundra for the last several months. Can you dig in the ground? No. It's hard to hide a body in the winter. There's a lot of weird hush-hush shit that goes on in this area, but you're not ready to talk about it.
Many people are concerned that the police are not stating that this is a serial killer after the remains of 7 people have been found.
Are people talking about the fact that there may be a serial killer in New England? Bodies found in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and there's no connections being made here. I listen to way too much Morbid to be thinking that this is okay. What's going on? They're saying that these aren't suspicious. Yes, the fuck they are. No connections. You know how many horror stories I hear that they didn't connect this murderer to this murder to this murderer? Like, just watch out. Everybody, just watch out.
Since these bodies have been recovered, 3 women have come forward with their experiences across Rhode Island and Connecticut concerning a man in a gray Tacoma truck. TikTok user Kiana Swins posted these stories saying that one experience occurred in Foster, Rhode Island, where one of the remains was actually found, where a woman claimed she had gone to JP's, a gas station, at 7 a.m. to get gas. Her kids were in the van while she pumped gas, and she saw a gray Toyota Tacoma across from her with no one inside or near it. Now, when the guy came outside to get gas, she was immediately having this gut feeling that something was wrong. She positioned her body so she would be able to see him, and he started talking to her about her car and his truck. He kept mumbling things under his breath that she couldn't hear, and so when he looked away for a couple of minutes, she got in her car and she sped off. She wanted to make sure the man wasn't following her, and then she dropped her kids off at daycare. But as she got out of her van with her kids, this man in the truck drove up, parked, came up next to them, and 2 people who were employees of the daycare were outside, and he started threatening them. He was allegedly not charged due to the lack of evidence, and he told police that he was just doing this for a good time. He was also said to be staying in a hotel in Connecticut. Now, a name wasn't given, but footage of this man at the gas station was found, and then another woman who also had an experience with this creepy man in a gray Tacoma truck came forward. She said that this man pulled up at her house where she was outside with her child, and he tried to approach her. This was in Danielson, Connecticut, where she started yelling at him not to come any closer. and eventually called the police. There was surveillance footage of this man slowly trying to get closer to this woman. Now, this man was identified through community members and believed to be 47-year-old John Newman. He was actually arrested on April 12th after police were called to the Music Lady restaurant in Plainfield, Connecticut for a suspicious persons report. Now, Foster, where the woman had experienced this man at the gas station, and Danielson, where the woman had this man come to her home, and Plainfield, where the man was arrested, was all within a 25-mile radius. Police arrived. They found John Newman at a nearby gas station. They asked him to leave this business, and he ended up charging at officers with an object in an aggressive manner. So he was arrested and charged with interfering with an officer, but some have questioned if he could be a killer or even possibly a serial killer. Now, a Facebook page has been created for this possible serial killer and experiences to be shared. There's over 60,000 followers on that page, and the chair of a forensic science department at the University of New Haven, Peter Valentine, he spoke about his thoughts on this case.
Specialize in crime scene reconstruction and crime scene investigation. The first thing that strikes me as curious is the fact that 7 sets of remains have been found over the span of 2 months. That in and of itself is rather curious. It's certainly a lot to find in a little. Whether that is the product of a directed search in particular areas because there's a belief that more remains will be found, we can't know because that information is not public at this point, or whether or not there's information to suggest that there's a reason to search, or that information is not publicly available. From the information that has been made publicly available, it certainly suggests that some of the remains are skeletonized or certainly degraded to the point where there's very little available with which to make even tentative identifications, such that even though these remains were found within the last 2 months, at least some of them have been in a state of decomposition for a period of time. Now, forensically speaking, the only way that you could say with any degree of confidence that these cases were related would be to find some kind of physical evidence that would allow you to connect a person or an object to more than one site. You could have multiple offenders committing the same kind of crime in multiple places.
However, as of April 12th, none of the New England police departments have linked any of these human remains as a serial killer targeting the region. The day prior, the Connecticut State Police released a statement saying there is no information at this time suggesting any connection to similar discoveries in Rhode Island and the Connecticut shoreline area, and there is no known threat to the public at this time. Now, New Haven police officer Christian Bruckhart spoke about finding Denise Leary, saying, "They're out there. We know that they exist, but I can only speak to my department's investigation in the missing persons case that there was no indication that there was any homicide." He was speaking about that there were serial killers out there, but that there was no evidence of that here. So with the missing woman found in New Haven's family not believing that she had any connection to a serial killer, Denise Leary's investigators don't believe that this was a homicide, and also the missing woman Sandra Crispo, who we spoke about possibly being the skull that was found, her daughter has come forward saying that she has another theory that it wasn't this serial killer. Her daughter Lena, who spoke about going to her mom's home, finding it unlocked and her mom was gone, believes that her mom was a victim of foul play, but that other members of their family know more than they are saying. In fact, in 2019, weeks after Sandra disappeared, Lena and her husband Tim testified before a grand jury. They believed that investigators were pretty close to an arrest at that point, but no one was ever arrested. But Lena said that 2 years prior to Sandra vanishing, her dad had died and left $1 million in gold bars. This was allegedly a huge tiff in the family concerning the inheritance money. Lena believed that her mother Sandra was targeted for something she didn't have, that money. Lena said that she learned from neighbors after the investigation that they had heard a loud argument the night that Sandra vanished inside of her home. And Lena even found what she believed to be small droplets of blood on the floor and the walls inside the home. Both Lena and Tim believed that the motive was inheritance and greed. So if 3 of these victims that we spoke about possibly being connected to a New England serial killer lean towards other motives other than a serial killer, is there any weight to these rumors and speculations? As far as Brittany McCormack, who was a missing woman from the area who was believed to possibly be the skull as well, her family has hired a private investigator and raised a $20,000 reward. Her family said that her bank account has sat untouched since she vanished. Her 28th birthday has passed. Her 6-year-old daughter and 7-year-old son have no idea where their mother has gone. Her sister said that they're not trying to take anyone down, they just want to give Brittany justice. They want people to speak up and not be scared. Discussing this case, it's very important to give all of the information and not just rely on speculation and rumors and the craziest option for what is happening here. We really need to break it down and understand each individual case, and I hope that I've helped you do that. But that is not all, because this is when a survivor would speak out. She had survived a serial killer who had yet to be identified. Jane Boroski survived a possible serial killer who also hunted in the New England area, but in the 70s and 80s. This was dubbed the Connecticut River Valley Killer. Jane spoke out to the media after hearing about the New England serial killer. She encouraged the locals to remain vigilant. She said she didn't know if the cases were connected, but with so many bodies turning up in a short amount of time, she didn't want people to dismiss this or forget about it, because the more that it was talked about, the more authorities have a reason to investigate.
I find it suspicious. For first, I came across it online about a month ago. And then I started doing some research, and I'm like, this is awful suspicious. It just didn't sound right that they weren't connected. And the law enforcement was just so adamant about, all these cases not being suspicious. It just didn't sound right to me. They come forward and are honest that there may be some suspicious activity going on. I don't think that's going to spread panic. But what I think it will do is make people more vigilant.
Now, the Connecticut River Valley serial killer that Jane survived, he had an MO of stabbing. He had similar dump sites and he had similar wound patterns. This first came to the attention of investigators in 1985 when a body was found in a wooded area in New Hampshire. They had multiple stab wounds. It was then a 36-year-old woman was attacked inside of her home in Vermont and stabbed to death. Then the next year in 1986, another body was found with stab wounds about 1,000 feet away from where the first victim was dumped. Investigators began to believe that a serial killer could be responsible for 7 murders from 1978 to 1988. Which is interesting considering 7 bodies have been found thus far for the New England serial killer. But with the Connecticut River Valley serial killer, the first was on October 27, 1978, when Catherine Millican left work and went to the Chandler Brook Wetland Preserve in New Hampshire. She was a 27-year-old. She had gone out to photograph birds, and she would be found dead there with 29 stab wounds. 3 years later, in 1981, 37-year-old Mary Elizabeth Kritschke vanished while hitchhiking in Massachusetts on the Massachusetts-Vermont border. She was found in a wooded area in Unity, New Hampshire, deceased. 3 years after that, in 1984, 17-year-old Bernice Courtmanch was last seen hitchhiking as well in New Hampshire. She was found near a river in Newport, New Hampshire. She had stab wounds and her throat had been slit. Now, 2 months later, 26-year-old Ellen Ruth Fried was last seen using a payphone in Claremont, New Hampshire. She mentioned to her sister that a strange car was driving back and forth in the parking lot, and she vanished after this, with her remains being found in a wooded area in the same river that Bernice had been found in. She too had multiple stab wounds. The next year, in 1985, 27-year-old Eva Marie Morse had last been hitchhiking in Charlestown, New Hampshire, and was found around 500 feet from where the second victim, Mary Elizabeth, was found. She had knife wounds to the chest and to the neck. Now, the next year, in 1986, 36-year-old Linda Moar was at her home near the highway in Vermont when her husband would come home to find her deceased in the living room with 25 stab wounds. With this case, witnesses claimed that they had seen a man lingering near her home this day. He was said to be 20 to 25 years old, clean-shaven, round face, dark-rimmed glasses, and dark hair. A composite sketch was actually released to the public, and he was allegedly found, identified, questioned, and excluded as a suspect. But in 1987, 38-year-old Barbara Agnew was driving from Vermont, but her car would be found in Hartford, Connecticut at a rest stop. The door of the car was cracked. There was blood on the steering wheel. There was blood in the back seat, and her bloody belongings were found in a nearby dumpster. She was later found in Hartland, Vermont, stabbed in the neck and the chest. So it was believed that there was a serial killer with the MO of stabbing. But the next year, after 7 years of murders, in 1988, 22-year-old Jane Boroski was 7 months pregnant. And on August 6th, she was returning home from a county fair in Keene, New Hampshire, when she stopped at a convenience store in West Swansea. They were closed, but they had a vending machine outside, so she bought a soda, she returned to her car, and that's when she saw a Jeep Wagoneer parked next to her. She looked inside the car through her rearview mirror, and she saw that the driver was actually coming around to her. He approached her open window and asked if the payphone was working. Jane was then forcefully pulled from her open window. Jane fought back, thinking of her unborn baby, and the man began to tell her that she had beat up his girlfriend and then asked if she had Massachusetts license plates on her car. She said she had New Hampshire plates. But the man then tackled her to the ground, got on top of her, and stabbed her 27 times before driving away. But for herself and for her baby, Jane mustered the strength to get back into her car and drive to a nearby friend's home. While on the road, she actually saw her attacker driving in front of her. But Jane got to her friend's house. They all rushed to help her, and they noticed a Jeep was passing slowly by, watching them, and then speeding away. As Jane was rushed to the hospital, she was told that she had a severed jugular vein, 2 collapsed lungs, a kidney laceration, severed tendons in her knees and thumb, but thankfully her baby had survived. Jane said she knew this man had left her for dead, and when she started seeing her story all over the news that she had survived, she realized she was likely the victim of a cold-blooded killer and that he could come back to finish the job. She said that evil had come into her life that day. She had worked with police on a composite sketch as well as a description of the Jeep and the first 3 in his license plate. While this victim survived, it was believed she became the sole survivor and the reason this possible serial killer stopped hunting. It was believed there was no more victims after Jane. Jane went on to have her baby, who ended up having cerebral palsy due to complications from the attack. Now, investigators at the New Hampshire Attorney General's office never officially connected these killings of the Connecticut River Valley Killer, just like in the New England serial killer case, but they were looking for a suspect ever since then. 18 years after Jane's attack in 2006, a private investigator actually brought forward a suspect of the Connecticut River Valley Killer. She believed it was a man called Michael Nicolo who could have been this killer. He had shot his estranged wife and stepdaughter before killing himself on New Year's Eve 2005. However, Jane stated that she didn't believe that was her attacker. She feels as though investigators could have done more in that case, that she was a survivor, she survived him, but for many years she went on living in fear that the killer would come back for her. She says she now wears her scars as a badge of honor, but she still has to question, did he follow her to the gas station that day? Was he sitting there watching her?
37 years ago, evil stepped into my life. He's going to want to come back and get me. There's stab wounds here. Yeah. I survived him. And that's something you can never take away from me. What made him so evil?
But those questions may never be answered for the Connecticut River Valley Killer, who has never been identified. After hearing about the New England serial killer, Jane felt like she had to speak out because she wanted people, especially women, to be more vigilant and aware of their surroundings, even if a serial killer isn't yet confirmed, as the alleged serial killer who attacked her was not confirmed yet either. She says that she believes that her unborn daughter wanted to live that day, and that is why she survived. She now has a podcast called Invisible Tears, which I will link for you down below. So could this Connecticut River Valley serial killer have any connection to the bodies being found within the last few months? That would be about a 50-year age gap, which makes the possibility highly unlikely that this is actually the same person. Now, bodies were found in wooded areas in both cases, but there was no indication that these 7 bodies who have been found in the last 2 months were stabbed like the Connecticut River Valley serial killer victims. It's definitely concerning that a case from 50 years ago of a possible serial killer is still unsolved. Did investigators leave a serial killer on the streets? Are they going to do it again with the alleged New England serial killer? Or is this not a serial killer at all? Is this multiple murderers? In that case, should it make us feel better that there are more humans out there with the ability to kill that could get away with it? Overall, this is very concerning. I thought it was important that we get all of the facts out there and we put some doubt in all of this speculation. We really listen to the facts and we don't ignore what's happening and the strangeness around 7 bodies being found in 2 months, unless the New England area police departments have just ramped up their searching efforts. It does seem quite strange that this is all of a sudden happening within a few months. And I think that's why a lot of people are really connecting these and really concerned. Because why are these many bodies suddenly being found? I think that that is the main reason why a lot of people are worried. But after hearing this, do you think that they have any connection? Do you think that this is another serial killer? I hope that I did an okay job on giving you the proper information and not just spreading the crazy rumors and sensationalizing this case. If it's not a serial killer, it's not a serial killer. We don't know that yet. But we also don't know for certain that it is. And I just tried to do my best to give you guys the facts, the truth, and to let you come to your own conclusion on this. So let me know what you think down below. I will have GoFundMes for the victims' families, any that I can find in the description, as well as contact information for those still missing for where to give information if you do have any. I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you checked out my last video, which was about a girl who went on vacation with her boyfriend and suddenly she vanished. And there was so many different stories about what really happened at the hotel bar that night. So we dive into all of the statements, theories, and possibilities. And that is the case of Emily Lambert. If you would like to go and listen, I will have that linked down below. You can now receive a huge bonus of 12 million free coins. Just click that link in my description or scan the QR code to download for free and to get your bonus. But don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay.